the first meeting that you have with your investor, the intro meeting, my most successful meetings like that were just a conversation without a deck, just me presenting. And after that, I can send them the deck and maybe walk them through the deck. But that first interaction, you're better off just having a more casual back and forth than like spitting out all your stats and material.
Yeah.
I think it gives the hook at the beginning much more than just like swamping them with a ton of stats and material.
Welcome to Startup Health Now, the podcast where we celebrate the entrepreneurs and innovators transforming health. I'm your host, Logan Plaster. It's no secret that 2022 was a down year for health innovation funding. Earlier this month, we published our year-end insights report and showed a 50% drop-off in digital health funding compared with 2021. Now, you have to take those numbers in context. For one, 2021 was a crazy, exuberant year for funding, fueled by this COVID-induced rush to virtual healthcare. Second, when you look at health innovation funding over 10 years, we're still on a dramatic upward growth curve. That said, 2022 was a scary year for startups that needed to raise funds. So I wanted to call up a founder in the Startup Health portfolio who had made it happen. Christian Dansereau, CEO and founder of Perceiv AI, closed his first round of funding, $1.5 million, in November 2022, while many other companies were experiencing down rounds, looking at acquisitions, or even closing their doors. So, how'd they raise their first million plus in spite of a rocky market? What strategies and mindsets did they use that other founders can learn from? We get tactical about lead gen, decks, and nailing your first meeting, but also talk about the importance of aligning with partners at a health moonshot level. Let's get into it. I'll let my guest introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christian Dansereau. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Perceiv AI. We are a precision medicine company forecasting disease evolution. Our main products are in Alzheimer's disease, predicting cognitive decline in the near-term future.
And where are you generally and specifically?
Yeah, I'm in beautiful Montreal, Canada. Currently at home, but we have new office that we've just opened actually a few months ago. So quite exciting time.
Awesome. Okay, so we're here to talk about the raise. Tell me, when did you raise this round?
So we started the process maybe at least a year and a half ago, but really starting to close some of the round was in May, June of last year, and we officially closed at the end of November last year.
Okay, May, June 2022, closing November 2022.
So right in that period where everybody was starting to be scared about a potential down round and economical situation. So we had a first close of one of our safe with one of a strategic investor, and but we still had to fill out the rest of the round. And obviously we were kind of at the end of our runway anyway, so like we didn't need any pressure to actually close fast, but it still takes time to close everybody else. So yeah, it was a challenging time, and we were kind of pressed in time also just for a runway perspective to push things as fast as possible. Unfortunately, also it's the summer, so summer is an added difficulty to actually close during the summer because everybody's on vacation, and everything is a bit slower also for obvious reason.
What was the hardest moment? Was there a moment when you thought, this might not happen, this is too hard, this is too much?
Yeah, so well, just before that, actually, like in more April, end of April, it was pretty tough. We were really stretching the runway, and at least that glimmer of hope was that first investor that came in, or at least we had the confirmation in May, and then they actually dispersed in June, and that kind of gave us that push and that hope that we could rally the rest. Initially, we were planning to do it in kind of two trenches, with that first valuation just rally a few investors and then do a larger one with a larger cap. But in the end, due to the economical situation, we decided to just rally everybody at once and close as fast as possible.
Got it. Part of the reason why we're having this conversation is that you closed the round where many people have struggled and maybe even decided to not raise or be acquired or whatever, choose a different route. So I want to talk through some of the things that you think contributed to the success of the round. Do you think that there were decisions that you made in April, May, June that contributed to the success, or was it simply the idea, an idea whose time had come and everyone recognized that?
I mean, there was no question about like we needed to raise that round, but we did a few things I think that were useful. So one of the difficulty that we had, we were speaking with a lot of investors in the past, a lot of interest from them, but no real concrete lead and nobody that wanted to commit first, right?
Yeah.
So we've used that first commitment, even if it was not at the exact valuation that we wanted, because it was kind of a template commitment or template safe. We've used that as a first trigger to kind of push everybody at the same time and push some commitment. So we kind of set a deadline for when that specific, at least that first tranche will close.
Okay.
And kind of push that, like that was a very good deal, a very good price, they should come in, but there was an expiration date to that. And that kind of forced them to actually give me an answer. They were in or out, whatever it was, at least I was kind of able to actually move and progress from that and prioritize also the ones that some of them had the ability to maybe close faster, other had a more lengthy due diligence process, and we were kind of able to rank them depending on how difficult it was and how valuable they were in terms of like the money and the strategic advantage they could bring in. So I think that was actually a pivotal moment that really helped us to actually get that final answer of like, are you in or out for this round? Like we need that commitment now, which I was struggling to have at the time. Like they were kind of, they were looking around, they were just waiting for that said lead, but in very early stage and in healthcare, especially in AI, it's difficult to have savvy lead investors that invest small amounts. So there is no lead at that stage usually. So you need to kind of federate or syndicate a group idea.
Got it. So was it difficult to sort of say no or put people on pause? When you're looking for that round, you want to keep all the doors open naturally. So you're saying part of the success was to be willing to close doors temporarily on people and say, there's a deadline. Was that difficult?
Well, so at the beginning, I was not refusing anybody. I was just saying like, give me an answer. And so they were saying like, well, my process is too long, so I'm not going to be able to join, unfortunately. So it was kind of a natural thing. After that, as we progressed, the space in the round got smaller, and then it also got a bit easier or had more leverage in terms of who I'm getting in or out, depending on what are the terms and everything. So it was difficult. It's never easy to, like the investor that you're talking to, usually you want them in some way or another.
Yeah.
But after that, it's when you have the luxury of being able to choose, then depending on the specific terms and the process, then you may or may not want to have them at this time.
Talk to me about getting your foot in the door. How many investors do you think you talked to during this round?
So it was on a very long period of time. So I would say probably 100, 150 people that I spoke to at any given time, at least. And a lot of them, like it's really, I have like people that I've spoke a long time ago that came into this round, others that like came in really at the last minute that I didn't knew before, and through introduction, like in a few months it was done. So and usually we were focusing on the US and in Canada in terms of investors.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that the folks who ended up coming in came from a variety of places. I guess that my question is, where did you have success in terms of prospecting? Did you do any cold emails? Did you go to the right conferences? Did you speed dating with investors? What were some of the things that were successful in finding people?
So one of the things why it took that much time also, it was because it was in the pandemic. So fostering these relationships during a pandemic time is actually quite difficult because you don't have that one-to-one in-person relationship. It's all on video calls and it's a bit more impersonal. So I think that was something that was much more difficult. So it was through email, through introduction from other VCs, from some of our trade commissioners, from some of my contacts with other startups. Every lead is a good lead in terms of good connection or relevant connections. And yeah, after that, like cold call doesn't really work most of the time. You need some sorts of warm introduction, and that can come from a variety of places.
Yeah.
You need to be creative.
People obviously obsess over their pitch deck. Any pitch deck wisdom to share based off of what actually closed the deal?
Yeah. So I hear a lot about like these, I did a lot of accelerators, and everybody has like that. You have like these templated deck plus the description and everything. And obviously, if you do cold call or you're sending your material over to people that you don't know, you need some sorts of minimal description. But I don't feel that it's really working well in a lot of even like the first meeting that you have with your investor, the intro meeting. My most successful meetings like that were just a conversation without a deck, just me presenting. And after that, I can send them the deck and maybe walk them through the deck. But that first interaction, you're better off just having a more casual back and forth than like spitting out all your stats and material. Yeah. I think it gives the hook at the beginning much more than just like swamping them with a ton of stats and material.
Yeah. When you closed the deal in November, did you think it was important for your team to celebrate, or did you just move right into the next project and say heads down?
Yeah, well, I mean, so this is also learning. Like we're trying to celebrate more and mark those big milestones. So now every quarter we kind of have these types of objective and celebrate these big milestones that we achieve. That said, the round was closed in like multiple subparts, like each investor. So it was kind of progressive. So it was not like one big closing, everything is done at once. So that kind of, at least on my side, it's kind of a never-ending saying like we're very close. We're like a few months, a few weeks, a few days, and then the days become a few weeks, and so finally, you need to take a bit more time or expect a bit more time for the closing, like the whole the formal due diligence process and the negotiation of like side letters and things like that. It's always a bit more time, especially with larger investors.
Yeah. Did you find it challenging to balance the time required for raising and what you need to do to simply run your business, coach your people, manage, and just be a good CEO?
Yeah, it sidetrack you completely. It sucks your life out of you to just do that, and unfortunately, you kind of lose the focus on the company and the objective, which is very detrimental for the staff and for the division. I would do things differently. It was my first raise and first round of financing, so I've put a lot of pressure on myself to actually deliver on that, since I was the one that was supposed to do that raise. But you need to be careful to not lose sight of the important stuff and why you're actually raising that money.
Yeah,
which is the objective and the employee and the vision of that.
In addition to that, revelation, what else would you do a little differently the next time? Will you do? I'm sure there will be a new round coming.
Yeah.
At some point.
I mean, you need to be super resilient, so that's for sure. Expect more time than you've planned, because the actual due diligence is after they actually committed and it's kind of done, like you're sure that they will come in. So uh, this is where the clock is starting, not when you have those initial casual or soft commitment discussion, and that can take a few months. Especially because some of the investors will most probably want to have side letters are a bit custom to them. Even if you do a safe that is supposed to be a template, not a lot of them actually sign the safe as it was without side letters and everything. So expect more time. And the other thing is try to raise when you don't need money. It's easy to say, but I'm currently, I've just been to JP Morgan last week. And it's a really different dynamic when you're not actually currently raising. The conversation that you have, the outreach of vegan VCs, it's a much better and more interesting and productive discussion, I think. So, I mean, I'm not saying go back to raising the month after you've closed, but certainly give you ample room and probably raise sooner than you would want to, or like even before you actually achieve all the milestones that you set yourself for, because you can start to engage, secure some of these initial commitments at that point, and then the conversation will be much easier.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and I've heard that from others as well. However, it puts into relief this challenge once again of balancing raising versus leading, and it forces you to really conquer that mountain. You know, if you're going to raise and then manage and then raise, then maybe you can make that split brain work. Maybe, probably not. But if you're going to be raising when you're not raising, then you really have to master it.
So I think when I'm saying like start to raise, it's not necessarily like that full blown like cold outreach, trying to find new investors and everything, but more from your first raise. Well, ideally, if you had a first raise, you already have a network of contacts and people, and probably like even investors that you would like to have in your next round, and potentially the ones that some of them are your potential candidates for lead investors. So those few relationships, maybe there is like 5 or 10 investors like that. Those you keep them very close, engage, try to report to them as frequently as possible, and get them as close as possible as you can, so that you can have these kind of intermediate conversation, like if they feel that like this is enough for them to actually trigger that round or things like that. So it's not like full blown fundraising, but more the current good relationship that you have. Anyway, your next round will probably be with investor that's tracked you for at least a year or so, that knows you a bit better. So
that makes a lot of sense. Any final words of wisdom to a founder who finds himself maybe a year behind you, looking at this market, thinking that 2023 is going to be a rough time to raise? They look to you and they say, okay, well, these guys did it. Any words of advice?
Well, keep your head down. There is capital, so the investors are there to invest, and the very small one that don't understand the market may want to see where things will pan out, but there is still a lot of good investors that have capital. So don't lose hope. That's gonna come, and try to give you ample time to close. Don't get too close to the end of the runway, because it's super stressing.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a lot about health moonshots at Startup Health and just really keeping the end in mind. You know, what does your grasp of your mission, how does that play into raising during a tough market?
Yeah, so there was a few signals that were motivating. Like we had internal good milestones that we were achieving, but we needed the capital. So it was kind of motivating, but also a bit frustrating, because like we're so close. We just need that fuel to get to those contracts or those milestones that already have some commitment. Plus, there was in Alzheimer's disease, specifically in our case, a lot of movement last year of like large clinical trials that were ending. So good signal. Actually, some of them actually got like very positive results last week. A week and a half ago, there was a first approval of a new drug in Alzheimer's disease. Very promising. So that kind of refueled the whole field, right? And a lot of excitement. And for us, new doors are open that we fast track our next round of investment.
Awesome. Christian, that's our time. I really appreciate you sharing with me a bit of that journey, the highs and the lows, the challenges of this, but congrats on closing the round during a tough time, sort of showing that other folks with on their health moonshot journey can still succeed if they, like you said, put their heads down, if they don't get too close to the runway, if they're smart during this time, and bring in folks who kind of understand their mission and understand the bigger picture, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Logan, for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Startup Health Now. Startup Health invests in health transformers around the world who are dedicated to achieving audacious health moonshots. If you want to learn how you can join this community of entrepreneurs, or if you want to connect with one of our 450 companies, go to startuphealth.com. If you'd like to learn how you can invest in our Health Moonshot Impact Fund, go to healthmoonshots.com. Thanks for listening to Startup Health Now. We'll be back again with another episode next week.